What's going on, guys? Welcome to the 19th episode of the glide tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at what is this exactly? The trails. Oh, we're going to be adding a trail to our player, and we're also going to be looking at the objective in our game. So we're going to be adding the rings. If you saw the preview of this game, we actually have to go through rings, and that's our game right there. So we're going to be doing that today. Let's get started right away by actually going back inside of the game scene, and this player right here, this thing right here, is going to be spawning a trail because we want to be using the same trail the player actually selected in the user selection thing, or the shop actually. So the way we're going to go about this is by heading inside of our player molder script, and we're going to be typing in some stuff in the start. So first thing we need to do is to actually create the trail. Now, which one are we using? We're using the one we saved in the save pref actually. So let me just quickly type that in. Game object trail, because we need to keep a reference to it, put it at the right place. It's going to equal to instantiate manager instance player trails. And then which one are we using? We're using the save manager.instance state and selected trail, or active trail in this case. And that's how we spawn it. Now we have the trail. Let's actually make sure we set the trail as a children of the model this time, not a children of the player object. So set the trail as a children of the model. The way we're going to go about this is by saying trail.transform set parent, and we're going to be using transform, but this time we're going to do a get child at the index 0, and that is the model, because right now we're on the player object, but below that player object there is the actual model, and that is what we want the player, the trail to follow. And then there's going to be a weird rotation issue. I know, because I did the game before, I wrote the game before, but there's going to be a rotation issue that we're going to be addressing right here. So fix the rotation of the trail. And that's because, of course, I had a complete bad time exporting through Blender, as I'm a complete beginner when it comes down to that. So trail transform local Euler angle is going to equal to vector3 dot forward times -90. So basically 0, 0, -90. And this way we can actually start creating our trail. Let's see if that works without actually going through the preload. No, it's not going to work. We have to go through the preloader. The reason it's not going to work is since we're using the manager in here, and the manager is something we have in the preloader scene. So right now we have the first trail selected. Let's actually launch any level. And as you can tell, we have the trail, and we can actually move around and do stuff. I don't have the Unity remote plugged in, so I can't actually move right now, but we're going to be trying it out later on. But right now what we want to be doing is heading over to the script, and we're going to be creating two new scripts. The first one being called ring, and the second one being called objective. So this one is objective. We're going to be starting with the ring one just because I feel like it, and it's shorter to write. The ring has a really simple mechanic basically. So the mechanic it has is it's going to have a reference to the objective script, and it's also going to have a on-trigger enter. In fact, that's the only reason we want to be having a script on the ring itself, is so we can actually use the on-trigger enter. So private void, on-trigger enter. So if you don't know, this is only being called when an object collides with the collider of ring. In that case, if the ring is active, we are going to tell the objective script that it has been collected, that it has been passed through or collected, or anything you want to call it, to be honest. And that's pretty much all we need in the ring for now. To make this work, we're going to go back inside of objective and keep on coding. And this is where we're going to be doing the logic for the whole game. So basically, the way I want to be setting this up is I will have an object in the scene that contains all the ring in order. So I'll have a public list of transform that's going to be called rings, and we're going to do a new list of transform. Of course, if list doesn't work for you, you need to add the system collection generic up here. With the new update, they just add it automatically. I kind of don't like that, but we have to deal with it. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to have, and then we're going to have a private int for the amount of ring we passed, so 0 at the beginning. And I'm also going to sneak in 3 material field right here, one for active ring, one for public material inactive ring, of course, and I don't think this takes a capital. I think this is only one word. Okay, and finally another one for the final ring. This way we can actually color up our rings, and that's just going to look a little bit better, and it's going to tell you if you actually have to pass through a certain ring or not. And also a nice feedback on which one is the last one, of course. Then let's do a private void start. So in the start, we're going to make sure that all the rings are inactive at the beginning. So at the start of the level, assign inactive to all rings, so they all know that they're inactive. The way we do this is by using a for each, because we're gonna be on the parent object that contains all the rings. We can do for each transform t in transform, and it's going to iterate through every single children. So we'll do rings.add. We're going to add this transform to our list, and then let's do a get component mesh renderer. The reason we're getting the mesh renderer, it is because that's the one that contains the material. So dot material is equal to inactive ring at first. Now all the rings have the inactive material on it. And now just to make sure that we do have rings in the level, because we need some rings to make the level happen, we're just going to be making sure we're not stupid, basically. That's a mistake on our hand. So making sure we're not stupid means, do we even have rings? So if rings.count is equal to 0, we are going to do a return and also tell us that we are stupid. So there is no objectives assigned on this level. Make sure you put some rings under the objective object. And that was a really long description, but that's basically what it means. If we hit that if statement, that means we don't even have anything in our level. Once we have all of this done, let's make sure we activate the first ring, because right now it's not activated since all the rings are set on inactive material. So we're going to take the same exact thing right here, the t get component, but instead of doing t, we're going to do rings at the index ring pass, or 0 in this case. It has to be 0 every time since this is the start. So we do a get component mesh renderer material is equal to active ring. Okay, so that's all cool, but we're gonna have another right here. We're gonna have another function, a public one, so we can call it from the ring, and that's gonna be called next ring. So every single ring, when it's active, is going to be calling next ring if you actually go through it. So play some FX. So play FX on the current ring. Right now we don't have any FX, so let's just put that on. So let's just put that on double question mark. Then up the int value, that's the score value, so ring pass plus plus. And then we're going to check, is this the final ring? So if it is the final ring, let's call the victory function, which we don't have just yet, but we're gonna get to it in a second. So if ring pass is equal to rings.count, then we're gonna call victory like this, and call the return function so we don't do anything else in here. Now, if this is the previous last, so if this is the previous last, give the next ring the final ring material, so we can tell our player that this is the final ring, and if he passes through it, he wins the level, so he knows what to expect basically. So if ring pass is equal to rings.count -1, then that means it is the final, well, the actual previous last ring, and we can say ring with an S, so rings, that's our array, at ring pass dot get component. We do another mesh renderer right here, and we do dot material is equal to the final ring. Else we're gonna go ahead and just do the normal skin. So copy this over, and we're gonna change final ring by active ring. Now all we're missing in here is to actually have the victory function. So public void, actually make it private, so private void victory. To do a victory, I'll do a find object of type, and I'll just call the complete level, the same exact thing we have on the button right now. So find object of type game scene, and this game scene has a public function called complete level. If you guys remember, we can just leave it here. Now there is only one problem with this. Well, first, our ring is not actually calling anything at the moment, but second, we can actually go in the rings right now at any any order. So that kind of sucks because you don't want to be actually giving the player the chance to do some kind of weird pathing. He has to go through the rings the way you actually lay them down in the object. So as children of the object, he has to go through the rings in that order. So we're going to be heading back on the ring and create a boolean at the top. So private boolean ring active. And now who decides if the ring is active or not? That's going to be the objective script. Also, talking about this guy, we need a reference to him. So private objective, that's the script we've made. Let's call it objective script and have a reference to it in the start. So private void start. In here, we're going to say objective script is equal to find object of type. Finding the object of type, of course, objective, because there's only going to be one. And we are going to create a public function right here. Public void activate ring. This way we can call this on the ring from the objective script. It's simply going to do ring active is equal to true. That's all it needs to do. We could actually been making this a public instead, but I like to go through functions basically. Alright, so what's going to happen right here is if we actually call this onTrigger enter function and the ring is currently active, at this point we can tell the objective script that you can call the next ring. So objective script dot next ring. To make this work, the final step we need is to make sure that the objective script communicates back to the ring. Well, not back, but communicate to the next ring and tell it to actually activate itself. So call the activate ring function. So again, back inside of the objective script, we are going to be going, say, right here at the beginning, we need to activate the ring, this ring at the beginning. So let's do a rings at the ring pass, get component. We're getting the component ring, and we call the activate ring. Let's actually make sure we copy this because we're going to be needing it somewhere else. And why is that not working? Oh, that's a function. My bad. We also need this at the end here because in both cases, we need to activate the ring. We need to activate the ring. So we do ring pass, get component, activate ring, the function. And that should actually do it. Now let's head back on the game and start laying down those, guys. So we're gonna go inside of the game, create a new game object. I'm going to call this one, let's just call this one level 1, right? And level 1 is gonna be the object that contains the ring. So I'll put that on 0, 0, 0, add the objective script to it. And now we need to set a lot of things. So first we need materials, and then we don't even need to set the rings. They're being set at the beginning, which makes me wonder why I made that public. Yeah, I'm going to turn this into a private really quickly. The list is going to be a private one, so we don't see it and we don't feel like putting stuff in there basically because it's going to be useless. Okay, so once we have our level 1, we're going to be filling in that information first. So let's head over to artwork. We have a material section right here. Let's right click on it. That's going to be the active ring. Create another material. That's going to be the, say, the final ring. And let's add another one, a final one, the inactive ring. And they're all going to have different colors. So the active one is going to be, say, white. The final one is going to be red. And the inactive one has to be some kind of other color. So actually maybe put that one red, and but actually bump the alpha down to, say, 100. To actually test this out, we could drag and drop a ring in the game. Let me just put the final one back on another color so I don't get confused. Green is good. So we have the active ring with white, final with green, and red on the inactive one. So red with a bunch of alpha right here. So like 100 alpha, why not? And I just realized that I changed the player map earlier. Put that back on black like this. Okay. Alright, so to test this out, I'm going to go in level 1. Drag and drop everything. So active ring goes here, final ring goes there, and inactive ring in this field. I'm then going to open up the model section, drag and drop a ring inside of the level. Now this one is going to need some modification as well. As you can tell, the whole rotation scale is all messed up again. So like this, it's a little bit more clean, and I gotta make sure that this one has the ring script on it. Just like this. Then I can move it, say here. That's a little bit too close. Let's move it at 20, and then have another one at, say, 40. and have another one at 60, and you know the whole drill. So I'm just gonna be distancing them a bit so I can see it, and I have the time to actually see it in the game. So something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's not my first level right here, but at least now I can see some rings in the game, and they are set in order. Really important that they are in order. The first one is the closest, and then, you know, that just follows the path. And this one, okay, they're not actually in order right now. Let me just drag this at the end, and this one goes first. So now if I go through my rings, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and there we go. So that's the proper order right here. Also, just to test out the materials, I am going to get close and drag and drop my material just to see it. So that's the active one. It is basically just white. That's the final one. It's green. And the inactive one is red right now. And since we don't have a material that supports alpha, it actually looks full red. What we could do is go on the material of this, change the standard for, actually don't change the standard, just go inside of it and change the mode for fade. And it's gonna look something like this. Alright, so that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do right now is open up my canvas and get rid of that button that just takes the whole screen. So, you know, that button right here, the complete level button, we are going to delete him and head back inside of our game. I'm actually going to plug in the remote this time because I want to be moving around just a bit, even though we don't really need it since all the rings are aligned. But let me just boot the remote real quick and launch the game. So here it is. I have the game playing on my phone right now. I'm going to head over to my level selection and say, let's take level 1. They're all the same still. And here we go. So that was my first ring. It didn't work, and all the other one are inactive. The simple reason why it didn't work is because there is no collider on it. Let me quickly just move around so you can tell that the trail are not messing up, even though we feel like they did. That is pretty much how the trail render behaves, but as you can tell, it looks pretty smooth. Sometimes you get these rotation mess up, but that's part of the trail render, and I haven't found a solution just yet. If you do find a solution to these little hiccups that it has, do tell. I'd like to know them and make this look a little bit better. So back inside of the game, we're gonna head over to the rings themselves, and we're gonna be actually putting them inside of a prefab. That would be a really good idea, actually. So let's take the first ring, drag and drop it inside of a prefab folder. Do we have any? Right here we have one. Drag and drop the ring in here. Going to be renaming it with a capital R, and let's get rid of all the other one. Now on the ring itself, I am going to be adding a box collider on it. Box collider is actually not expensive at all, so it's better to have a box collider than a mesh one. Especially in this case, because the mesh one is not going to consider you going through it. It only consider if you actually hit the sides. Okay, so now on the collider itself, we're going to be turning this into a trigger collider, not a normal collider, else we're going to get a weird frame in which we collide with the actual thing, and we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that this is a trigger zone. So click on is trigger. This way your player goes through it no matter what. And then we can actually just scale this down just a bit. So maybe something really small. I like this one, so 0.05, and that is going to be it right here. Now I'm going to hit apply on this, and of course duplicate that, move it plus 20 or plus 25, why not? Duplicate this a few more times like we did before. And let's actually end this with a challenge. Why not just put them a little bit higher or rotate them? Whoa, that would be amazing. Alright, so that's our challenge right here for level 1. I'm just kidding, that's not going to be level 1. Either way, we're going to be booting this game again and see if it works. So we're heading inside of the game right now. It should be colored. Well, it's not really colored, but this one is white. As you can tell, they actually changed, and the order in which I did it sucks, as you can tell. But it actually works. Okay, so I suck at this game. Let me just reverse them in the proper order. So these two are mixed up, and the two other are working fine. Alright, so round two. So here we go in the game. As you can tell, they changed. We also need to delete the old one, because right now, if you have a look in the game scene, they are not being deleted. So back on my phone, let me quickly just win this. We're gonna have a nice angle here. And let's go back to, oh, that's too fast, but that's not fast enough actually. But as you can tell, this one is green right here, I'm going to zoom on it, is green. So that's the final ring. And if I actually went through it, which I will because I'm gonna cheat now. Put that back here. Let's get closer a bit. Okay, you know what? I'll just take this and directly face it like that, and then align with view. There we go. That's gonna be a little bit easier, and then we hit play. It's gonna go through, and we won. So whoa, the level was unlocked and all that kind of stuff. So the same exact function as earlier happened, the complete level function, and we can just keep on going with our game flow by unlocking other levels. So that's actually all we needed to do today. In the next one, we're gonna be looking at, well, first, making those rings disappear. That would be really useful, and adding a animation to it because we just feel like it, right? Also, we're gonna be splitting our level apart, so whenever we load level 1, we only have the objective from level 1. If we load level 2, same thing, is gonna be a different level. So we're gonna be making sure that every single dots you see here on the screen are gonna be having different levels. So that is for the next episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button, please subscribe to the channel, share this tutorial around. I really appreciate it if you did something like that. Your help goes a very long way in making this channel successful and maybe one day turning this into a dream. There is a video right now on the screen. You should be clicking it right now if you want to head over to the next video. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one. Meow.